The New Jersey State Police launching a new awareness campaign targeting Cuba ahead of the president's trip there next week. They say they want tourists to know that Cuba is harboring dangerous U.S. fugitives and that the Obama administration has ignored their calls to do something about that as part of this reopening of discussions and trade and so forth and tourism. Senior correspondent Rick Leventhal has more on this story, which has resonated in one state for a very long time. Good morning, Rick.
Absolutely, Martha. The agency is warning Americans about 4 domestic terrorists, 3 of them killers, one convicted of murdering a New Jersey state trooper nearly 40 years ago. All of them believed to be roaming freely on Cuba's streets.
Really an insult to everybody in law enforcement.
The superintendent of the New Jersey State Police is angry and frustrated that convicted cop killer Joanne Chesimard has been living free in Cuba for decades. Now he's penned an op-ed warning tourists to use caution if they plan to visit the island nation. Chesimard was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Trooper Werner Forster, killed in a gun battle with a wanted radical and 2 other members of the Black Liberation Army on the New Jersey Turnpike in 1973. She escaped from prison in 1979 and fled to Cuba in the early 80s, allegedly protected by the Cuban government, along with dozens of other fugitives from American justice.
There's no intention on their part to change their status of political asylum. They're coddled, and they're walking around the island openly, and American tourists are going to run into them. And as it says in the opinion article that I wrote, they are still disenchanted and hateful of all things American, and that's a risk for American tourists that are going to Cuba.
The colonel says President Obama's visit to Cuba shouldn't overshadow the need for the White House to be tougher with the Castro regime.
Is this a slap in the face to law enforcement?
It's a slap in the face if we refuse as a country to make them part of the negotiated settlement to normalize relations with Cuba. Yes, I think it is.
There's been no official statement from the White House. The administration says the issue is of long-standing concern and will be addressed in the broader context of normalizing relations. But the colonel says he's still hoping the U.S. makes it a firm condition, return the fugitives before we move any further. Martha?
All right. We'll be watching that one. Rick, thank you very much.
Sure.